Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Now we will come to today's news. And we know how much of a soy boy Adam Kaiser actually is, the same dude that sat there and cried during the January 6th commission and started boo-hooing on camera, "Lay the waterworks go," because the guy is such a pansy. Well, it looks like he officially had a meltdown and breakdown simultaneously on Twitter as a user pointed out how worthless he actually is. It was quite hilarious. It all started right after the FBI Trump raid, and Adam Kick has decided to go ahead and tweet Steven Crowder, which was pretty hilarious. So let's kind of get into this. This is Adam King is there for will be a former representative here very soon, because the Democrats had decided in the state of Illinois to go ahead and gerrymander him out of his seat after he cozied up to the Democrats and voted to impeach President Trump, and decided to go ahead and serve on the Sean Committee, which is the January 6th commission, and their only mission is to make sure that President Trump can't run for re-election. Well, guy has a little bit of thin skin. He doesn't like to be called out. He doesn't like when other people question his motives or actually questioned his accomplishments, which isn't very many if you actually look at it in the sphere of what he is comparing it to. So here on Twitter, he decided to go ahead and go after Steven Crowder and whine about Steven Crowder's tweet that says tomorrow war sleep well. It's what he said. Let's go and take a look at this line. Pull it up on here. It's a tomorrow's war sleep well, because in the context of it's time to get to work against the deep state people like the FBI and stuff like that, it is time for Americans to engage in this information warfare. So in Adam Cages are said, so you can just say this on Twitter now. I can almost see him crying while he was saying why he was typing this out. You know, not to mention that the left has used this type of rhetoric for I don't know how long on Twitter. Literally threatening violence on the Supreme Court members just a couple months ago, doxing them, go into their house, even had an assassination attempt on one of our justices, and yet Adam Kidneys are here is whining because somebody on the right says tomorrow's war sleep well, right? So Pedro Gonzalez, I believe that's his name. I will get it here in just a second. Pedro Gonzalez says, Adam Kaiser is shaking because somebody tweeted war on the internet as the closest thing he's seen to combat it. This is where it gets good. So Adam Kick is there says, I have 5 to 6 air medals for 120 combat missions. That may disagree with you, but you know that I do shake though when people beg for war. I assume anyone that knows war does to its chickenhawks like you that do? So Pedro shoots back. He says, you're a glorified part-time bus driver who hides his mediocrity behind a uniform and participation trophies. My mother swinging a sandal at an insolent grandchildren has seen more combat, and you Uber Eats drivers in Chicago have seen more combat than you. Adam King's there's grift depends on people not knowing that his job has kept him well away from the fighting combat mission as meaningless term. It is literally participation trophy, or more like one of those gold stars kids get in school attendance. Yeah, I've flown combat missions to a distance picking up my Mexican food in the shady parts of San Diego at night. That is as much or more risks that Kinguser has braved. One time I got into a fight with a drug addict in the East Coast San Diego. That means I've seen more combative in Kinguser kangaroos are breeds Air Force. Here's your medal. So it wasn't done yet. Kegs are decided to keep on going. Look up to Air Ben's medal and get back to me, he says. So Bus Peterson jumps in. It says Airman's medal. The Air Medal are two totally different awards. Do you have 5 or 6 Air Medals as you claim, or Airman medals? Your Tuner 14 would clear it up. Get back to me, says Buzz High Pow. 5 or 6 Air Medals and 1 Airman medal. He said that he's probably quivering as he's typing this. Page Eric is always went on to say, did you get a Purple Heart for crying on TV? I will personally put you up for a common accommodation. It's not every day you could see a grown man cry like a little girl. And then it says the aim of the right should be to inflict maximum pain and suffering on our enemies. We must learn the lessons of how these people fight and weaponized institutions, how we should be launching investigations and raids on those guilty of far worse than the accused and other things. Absolutely right. Adam King is an absolute loser. And that is how he runs, that is what he does. Just his total lack of understanding and depth of what's going on is hilarious, because this guy is such a loser. He'll be out of Congress because he decided to go ahead and cozy up to a Democrat party and decided that, hey, they're going to protect my seat. Yeah, nope, you're out. Liz Cheney, you're next. You got like 2 days left. I hope you enjoy him because the American people are sick and tired of the unit party. They're sick and tired rhinos, they're sick and tired of people continuing to vote against their constituents in this country. And we are taking them back after voting box this year. So prepare yourselves because you might want to go ahead and give CNN, MSNBC, maybe The View a call. Adam, you will be a perfect fit. Sitting alongside will be Enjoy. And this is from the University of Wyoming. Fantastic University. Wyoming Republican primary candidate Harriet Hagerman is leading incumbent Liz Cheney by nearly 30 points in the primary contest for Wyoming's Salinae seat in the U.S. House of Representatives. According to a new poll by the University of Wyoming's Wyoming Survey Analysis Center, now 30 points, the primary, the eventual or the imminent catalyst, catastrophic loss for Cheney is on the 16th show. That's just 2 days from now, Tuesday. We will have to celebrate married hate Harriet Eggman defeating Liz Cheney, whose father is Darth Vader. Dick Cheney, one of the most villainous, deceitful politicians in U.S. history. Who got us into, along with Rumsfeld, Donald Rumsfeld and Bush, the one of the longest, most devastating counterinsurgency conflicts in the history of this country, in the history of the world. And we learned lessons from Vietnam. That generation, we learned a lesson. We learned military and other lessons from the Vietnam War, that Bush, Cheney and Rumsfeld completely ignored, sending Americans off to fight the same type of counterinsurgency battles, where you don't know who your enemy is, and where there's no definition of victory or success. And this is the world that Liz Cheney wants, a world where Americans are sent off to topple regimes to intervene at a moment's notice. As long as our wonderful intel community. Hi, John Brennan, Clapper, just working on my car. It's a community. It's a wonderful community. No, it's not. The intel is derived after a foreign policy is decided upon by the administration. That's almost always what happens. Every once in a while you'll get intel that's accurate. But from WMD to now, with Trump and boxes of classified data from Mar-a-Lago, it's usually a reason for the current administration to engage in a course of action that is almost always going to be a complete and catastrophic and utter failure. So the Bay of Pigs with Kennedy, and then the Gulf of Tonkin with LBJ, and then you have the intel agencies didn't even predict the fall of the Berlin Wall. But then you had Tehran, with hostages in 1979. And intel agencies didn't predict that the fall of that country. They don't predict anything. And then they say, well, you have to revere what we anyway. It's Liz Cheney that reveres these people. And it is Trump that pushes back and says, hey, wait a second, what's going on here? We need an intel apparatus. We don't need one that sides with Democrats against Trump. Although they've accusing Trump of the most absurd things. These are letters with Kim Jong-un. These are letters for his library. Oh my God. You know, he's the Orange Al Capone. Oh my God. But anyway, why do you want to go back to a Republican Party where Paul Ryan is lifting 20-pound weights? And that is seen as, wow, that's fantastic. And by the way, media, well, the current state of affairs in journalism, and even in late night, with Jimmy Kimmel, or Stephen Colbert, or Saturday Night Live, let's say Mitt Romney, purged the Republican Party of a more populist movement that Trump has now completely transformed the GOP into. Let's say you'll have a good Republican, like the Lincoln Cheney people who are against marriage equality, and who want every single military endeavor to take place, counterinsurgency conflicts, wars, and all of these things that old Republicans and Democrats really love. And, you know, who won't? The traditional Republican who will talk tough about the border, but do nothing about it. The traditional Republican who cares about workers, but really actually won't go to bat, and Trump had hundreds of thousands of new manufacturing jobs. Anyone who says Trump abandoned the working class knows nothing about economics or his record. We have the highest ever household median income in America in 2019, the highest ever. And we had the lowest ever poverty on record. So that was under Trump. His policies worked in terms of the economy. And he negotiated the Doha Agreement to get Americans out of what Liz Cheney's father got us into. And Biden completely botched that because he didn't want to get Americans. I want it. Americans will be staying there forever. If Clinton had defeated Trump in 2016. And I said she would lose to Trump. Okay, it's not difficult when people say like, well, there's like the Democrats. I've heard the most absurd things like the most immoral type of will. Climate change affects everybody. But you know, you signed up to go to war. So that's why I'm voting Democrats like whites. How can you like with climate change as an important issue? How do you know any of your policies in the United States of America will protect the entire planet, when the entire planet does not go along with whatever it is the Democrats passed? The Inflation Reduction Act will increase inflation. It's you don't pump money, add inflation unless you can ensure economic growth. So unless there's economic growth involved, so you can make a case for cash tax cuts. But if you're not growing the economy, and this doesn't grow the economy, if you just want to protect the planet, you don't know, there's no way to categorically say that your money for to protect the planet is what is actually doing its job. So what they did, you have Biden flooding the country full of strategic petroleum reserves, because his initial climate change policies were colossal failures. And he was sued by oil and gas associations. And then inflation went up because oil went too high up, but then oil is down in part because of strategic petroleum reserves. So anyway, you can't keep that up. So oil is gonna go way back up. And then you still have like layoffs. Their layoffs are on the horizon. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, see, even my like worst enemies don't lose sight of the fact that, God forbid, layoffs are on the horizon. I don't want even Democrats lose their job or whatever. But I mean, if the reverse were true, you voted for Trump and now there's a recession ma. I mean, Liz Cheney is voting for is going after Trump. But there's a recession now. And Liz Cheney Kinzinger said nothing about $1 to $2 billion in property damage. I mean, up until November. Media, the left Democrats have gotten away with pretty much anything that's going to change, that is going to change politically. Once Trump Republicans take over the House and Senate. And I agree with the cause of why people demonstrated. I agree with the cause. But I don't agree with $1 to $2 billion in property damage, 19 lives lost, 14,000 arrests. Where's the condemnation from Liz Cheney? Here's why. Most of the country doesn't take like that was, and also a big loss, Big L Lake. The congressional committee, they went from oh my god, Trump tried to overthrow the Unite Us democracy and its government, to oops, that didn't work. Gosh, all we have is that he threw his dinner at the wall. Okay, classified data on Mar-a-Lago and God. That's what they have. That's all they have. It's always crying wolf. Liz Cheney represents a failed Republican brand party, a Republican party that worships intel agencies just like Democrats do to do their bidding. And a Republican party that talks tough on a bunch of issues, but then doesn't actually address those issues. Trump has revitalized or transformed the Republican Party into a populist political party that Bernie Sanders would like, for the most, but Bernie Sanders became a different person. Bernie 2016 people would vote for Trump 10 out of 10 times. Bernie 2016 Bernie Sanders, that whole thing changed into something completely different. Okay, but he got cheated. DNC cheated him. Bernie Sanders, and you know the rest. Ladies and gentlemen, the 16th Tuesday will be the day that Liz Cheney loses, that Trump officially defeats the Bush-Cheney and Rumsfeld Republican Party. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Of course, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and of course possibly subscribe if you're up for it. I'm gonna get back to work. I want to thank you